Welcome to the Chris Spangle Show. Thanks so much for joining us here on part 2 of this episode as we continue talking about RFK. We heard a little bit about why America has problems. Now we're going to hear what can America aspire to be, in the words of Barack Obama. So thanks for staying tuned here. Stay tuned for part 2, which begins right now. We've finished up with RFK. Thought that was a good clip. And so I think he really articulated a lot of points about why our democracy is broken because of the two-party system and how things work and how they ought to work better. And he is saying, here's the vision of the Democratic Party that's very negative. And I want to play a clip from Barack Obama. And I'm going to let this play more than this last clip just because we're getting over time. But I think part of what was funny is watching this speech was, I forget who said it, but somebody said, Jon Stewart coming back to The Daily Show and hearing Barack Obama speak felt good because it makes you realize what good satire and good politics. What was the quote? Do you either remember? Somebody put it in the group chat, and I thought it was funny. I got it right. I got it close, right?
Yeah, it's close. It's the idea that this is what we kind of forgot this could be at a level of what it should be, and what we are accepting now is so much less.
Yes, I mean everybody that looked at Joe Biden and Donald Trump went, these guys can't articulate anything, let alone a higher vision for what America ought to be. I think
Trump won because he beat the only person who was more hated than he was at the time, right? I mean, it was just like, these are the worst people, and then you've got now the worst people of the worst people, and now you get even more worse people. I mean, how far can we go down with this?
Hillary's speech was terrible. Hillary's speech was about her and her place in history, and her campaign was about her. I'm with her was her slogan. And I think Kamala has done a great job of saying, I talked about it yesterday, she's triangulating her messaging like Bill Clinton, and she's shifting to freedom like Ronald Reagan. And
somebody is doing that.
Well, yeah, it's David Axelrod wrote this plan, and she's just executing David Axelrod's plan. But my larger point is when you go from Bill Clinton to George Bush to Barack Obama, I think most of us grew up in a period where you had Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and Drew Brees in terms of their ability to message what America is and ought to be and where we ought to go. And so now that we've had 10 years of people that can barely speak, Kamala gives an okay speech and everybody's like, yeah, right? I mean, I watched Ron DeSantis respond to the Tim Walz pick, and it was just amazing because it was like, wow, there's a Republican that is articulating a case against Tim Walz and the ticket, and I believe exactly what he says. And it was effective, and it was smart, and it was factually correct, and it wasn't about him. It was like, man, they would be crushing Joe Biden if Donald Trump weren't the guy, right? And so when they replaced, it goes back to Nikki Haley saying, whoever dumps their 80-year-old first. So to hear this line, and I'm fully aware that a couple things. Barack Obama is the president that Barack Obama was, and I became a libertarian because of George Bush and Barack Obama, right? So I'm not playing this because all of a sudden I love Barack Obama, but I think he is great at articulating the Declaration of Independence and its values. A lot of his speeches on that were very good. I think you're going to hear in this little clip him going after his own side and saying we're losing because of these impulses. And you also hear great social commentary that I've talked a lot about on this show that a lot of people have glommed onto, and he applies it to the political process. So I thought this was a very telling clip for those reasons, because it was nice to hear someone articulate these things. So let's listen to Barack Obama.
That's the only way this American experiment works. And despite what our politics might suggest, I think most Americans understand that. Democracy isn't just a bunch of abstract principles and dusty laws in some book somewhere. It's the values we live by. It's the way we treat each other, including those who don't look like us, or pray like us, or see the world exactly like we do. That sense of mutual respect has to be part of our message. Our politics have become so polarized these days that all of us across the political spectrum seem so quick to assume the worst in others, unless they agree with us on every single issue. We start thinking that the only way to win is to scold and shame and out-yell the other side. And after a while, regular folks just tune out, or they don't bother to vote. Now, that approach may work for the politicians who just want attention and thrive on division, but it won't work for us to make progress on the things we care about, the things that really affect people's lives. We need to remember that we've all got our blind spots and contradictions and prejudices, and that if we want to win over those who aren't yet ready to support our candidates, we need to listen to their concerns and maybe learn something in the process.
I'll pause here and say that if you listen to Bill Clinton's speech, about 3/4 of the way through, he said the exact same thing almost. They both reiterated. I mean, two very successful Democratic politicians taking their own party gently to task and saying, we're not listening to people, we're talking down to them. And I thought that was very solid.
And that's one.
Go ahead.
That's one thing Kamala's been doing too. I don't know if you noticed when she's getting pushback about the from the Palestinian side, the pro-Palestinian side. She's not saying be quiet or shut up or keep those people out as much. It's more, we need to do a better job of hearing your concerns, but we also have to get on with these other things that we're working for too. And we got to go together to get there. So she's trying to take that message, and whoever's, giving her this advice is getting her into that.
Yeah, I watched a lot of this convention, and one thing that stood out to me was there weren't any comments about baskets of deplorable type statements. The negative about conservatives always was delivered in the form of Donald Trump does X. Okay, it was always about the man Donald Trump. It was never about the other side or the right or conservatives or even the conservative Congress. You got a lot of, and I think in going back and kind of watching some of the RNC stuff and listening to those speeches, it was a lot of the left. And one of the mistakes that Democrats have made in taking on Trump is that the person who is a natural Trump supporter feels attacked. And I think they tried very hard not to do that in this convention, while also trying to show we're patriotic, we love America, we're masculine, we're these things too. You don't own the word freedom. We have our own version of freedom. So it was definitely a message shift away from the stuff that didn't work in the Hillary era and in the Biden era, which, we are moral and you are not moral, and anybody that is against us fall off a cliff and die, right? I don't know. So I think politically they understand a lot of their base is a lot of the reason that people aren't Democrats. I mean, people don't, it's hard to look at the messaging of violent Republican extremists and, all these guns, and they're all just going to kill us if we don't vote for Trump, blah, 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 blah. And then the RNC is like a fun party, no violence. And then the DNC shows up and there's violence, right? It's definitely an acknowledgement that there's some problems in how Democrats are connecting to the broader public.
If a parent or grandparent occasionally says something that makes us cringe, we don't automatically assume they're bad people. We recognize that the world is moving fast, that they need time and maybe a little encouragement to catch up. Our fellow citizens deserve the same grace we hope they'll extend to us.
It's just extraordinary to hear him go against identity politics at its core in a soft way. So I thought that was a really interesting section of the speech.
That's how we can build a true democratic majority, one that can get things done. And by the way, that does not just matter to the people in this country. The rest of the world is watching to see if we can actually pull this off.
By that, he means America, by the way. One of the reasons that Germany and other countries, like they went a different direction in the late 1800s, early 1900s that led to World War II is the American Civil War. Because the founding of the country was such a brave experiment, giving power to the people and dispersing it amongst a bunch of elected officials as opposed to a king or a small council, they all concluded that democracy didn't work, that republics didn't work, so we ought to go a different way. And I think we're now at that same crucial choosing point. Are we going to move towards oligarchy? Are we going to move towards fascism? Are we going to retain our Republican democracy? There's some really big questions that the world is watching. Can America, the last bastion of freedom and representative democracy, can it survive?
No nation, no society has ever tried to build a democracy as big and as diverse as ours before. One that includes people that over decades have come from every corner of the globe. One where our allegiances and our community are defined not by race or blood, but by a common creed. And that's why when we uphold our values, the world's a little brighter. When we don't, the world's a little dimmer. And dictators and autocrats feel emboldened. And over time, we become less safe. We shouldn't be the world's policemen, and we can't eradicate every cruelty and injustice in the world. But America can be and must be a force for good. Discouraging conflict, fighting disease, promoting human rights, protecting the planet from climate change, defending freedom, brokering peace. That's what Kamala Harris believes, and so do most Americans.
I think this is a crucial point that the right has missed, right? That most people believe government solves their problems. And they're looking for ways that the government will solve their problems. And the atrophying of those muscles on the right, I think it was staged through the Bush years because Republicans, there's two ways to look at laws and government and politics, right? There's the moral view and there's the utilitarian view. Is it moral to do and should we do it? You know, negative liberty is it moral for you to do this to me? And the positive view of liberty is, which Barack Obama holds, is the government should do this for the individual to make our lives better, right? It's a moral issue. And then there is the utilitarian view of is the thing that you're going to do or does it work? Right? And Republicans and people on the right and libertarians specifically spend a lot of time talking about the general morality of government shouldn't do X. And they spend a lot of time of it didn't work and it doesn't work, but not a lot of time talking about what we should do for people. How do we actually keep ourselves safe? How do we deal with the pandemic? How do we feed the hungry in our communities? Right? That's the problem with the modern libertarian message, and why it doesn't connect with people is because it's so against everything that it doesn't have solutions for things. I've said this the entire run of this show. We're too much change and not enough hope. Right? Because this show was started under the Barack Obama administration. And I don't know that I've always done a great job of that either, because it's really easy to be a critic. It's hard to come up with the plans to fix it. And so I challenge people on the right, Republicans and Libertarians, start thinking more about what you can do for people, how we can message to give people hope that there is a solution to their problems that doesn't involve government intervention, and less about this is an unfair thing that is being done to me. This is the legacy of the Trump administration is the inherent victimhood of the right now. And that does not connect with voters. What voters want is what he just said. I want a solution to my problems. And if your solution means I've got to pay less taxes, I'm probably going to go with you. I just want to know that you care about the moral issues that I care about. And then give me solutions that work better than their solutions. But there's very little in terms of the way that the right messages anything that speaks to the morality of people and to the utilitarian view, and merging those two things. And so this is just a call to heed those words and say, look, don't lose because people love free stuff. It's that we haven't explained how things can be freer and work better for them.
I know these ideas can feel pretty naive right now. We live in a time of such confusion and rancor, with a culture that puts a premium on things that don't last. Money, fame, status, likes. We chase the approval of strangers on our phones. We build all manner of walls and fences around ourselves, and then we wonder why we feel so alone. We don't trust each other as much because we don't take the time to know each other. And in that space between us, politicians and algorithms teach us to caricature each other and troll each other and fear each other. But here's the good news, Chicago. All across America, in big cities and small towns, away from all the noise, the ties that bind us together are still there. We still coach Little League and look out for our elderly neighbors. We still feed the hungry in churches and mosques and synagogues and temples. We share the same pride when our Olympic athletes compete for the gold. Because the vast majority of us do not want to live in a country that's bitter and divided. We want something better. We want to be better. And the joy and the excitement that we're seeing around this campaign tells us we're not alone.
All right, so that, I think, was a great point that I make a lot. Cynicism is really easy, and we can listen to the voices that we're all doomed, but people are getting fed. People are working together. People are coaching little leagues. People are talking to each other, and we're not focusing on the positive. And if we do more of it, more positive will come out of it. And I thought that was a great piece of social commentary, that our values as a nation are too heavily weighted towards things that don't last and not weighted towards the everlasting. I mean, you couldn't have found a better Christian commentary than what Barack Obama just gave, which I know sounds funny, but it's true. We are doing the work in this nation, and it doesn't get enough attention. And if we do more, things will get better, because that's the entire premise of this show and what I do. There's three ways to make social change. There's three functions in society. There's government, which is monopolized violence. Do this or else. We're going to solve this problem by forcing you to participate. There's business and free markets. We're going to use profit to solve this problem. And that has its inherent problems, as we see and we all feel as we're being squeezed thanks to private equity. And then there's civil society, which is strong individuals, strong families, strong nonprofits, strong churches, strong synagogues. It is the private cultural sector of a society where people voluntarily work together to make things better. And we are putting too much focus on the other two and not enough on what works best, which is the third, civil society. So consider this your call to get out there and make yourself better, make your family better, then make your community better. And in turn, those other two, the free market, or free-ish market, as I'll call it, and government will catch up to what the culture has built because they're lagging indicators. They respond to what happens in civil society. When people see a need and they fix it, corporations go, we can make money off of this, and governments go, I can co-opt this to keep my power. So we really have to focus on what's being done and how we can do more of it, and things will get better. All right, final thoughts, Hodey, and then Rhinehold on that clip from Barack Obama.
Yeah, he said a lot of the right things. The Democrats did a great job this convention saying a lot of great things. My big issue with them is they do not believe any of it. Some of this stuff from Barack Obama is hilarious coming from his mouth when you know who he is. This is a guy who redefined war so that he could do more wars. I mean, this is an unbelievable, when he's talking about loving our neighbors and understanding people, and then he uses a drone strike to blow up journalists that are critical of him, right? Like, this is a hilarious monster who is saying all the right things, and the thing is the Democrats are winning because at least they're pretending to care, right? They are faking it well. Now, if I had any problem with the DNC, it's that Kamala Harris, and I believe the DNC chose intentionally to say this is we're in a good path right now. And I think this is because the Republicans are making people scared, like of radical change and mass deportation. And so they were like, hey, Kamala Harris had a big, everything I did as vice president. She could have said, hey, I was only vice president. I wasn't unleashed, but instead took that responsibility for the wars, the violence, the immigration issue, the economy, and was like, I hope you're buckled up for more of this because we're only just getting started. And I believe the better option would have been to say this is a new direction, because I don't think people like the current direction. But I don't blame them for doing it, because I believe they're trying to give people would rather take the devil they know over the Republicans. And the thing is, while you say Trump is the devil we know, we've seen him before, he is promising a lot of new things. And there's a lot of new things that are scaring people about him. To say that, oh, now Trump is unleashed. Well, Republicans, you may think that sounds good, but to most people with common sense, that sounds very not good. So I listen, these are the Dems that opened up a second concentration camp along the border. Yes, media, you called the first one a concentration camp. Just because Joe Biden opens up a second one and the conditions there are even worse doesn't make it no longer a concentration camp. Stick to your word. Again, this is a media issue. New wars started. Kamala Harris said, get ready for the most lethal military in the world, right? Like, she's going to have us extra deadly. Imagine hearing that when you're somebody in the Gaza Strip. We've had inflation into oblivion. There's a promise to continue these same policies. My issue with the Democrats isn't that they actually said many right things. It's just that they don't believe any of them. But this is what, when we talk about it from a libertarian perspective, and Chris, I have you to thank for this, because it's all about that culture side. It's all about that social side. And that's what we need to be focusing on, to say, listen, yes, you can point out their hypocrites all day long, but why not at least take their winning message? Because the messages that landed are extremely libertarian, or should at least be. Right? Like, these are messages that we should embrace. What you just heard from Barack Obama about loving your neighbor, about accepting people for their differences, about hearing them. He's absolutely wrong about that being what democracy is, but he's absolutely right about that being a good thing. And libertarians need to be the good guys. I just wrote down here, I'm done with black-pilled libertarians and this negative, hopeless future. I would rather be lied to and have somebody at least have some hope for the future than be told the truth and told the future is bleak and dire and terrible. Like that's no good way to sell this message.
And there's nothing you can do to change it. It's just them are going to lord over you, and it's all over until this collapses and your family dies. Okay,
right.
Thanks.
And
I'll vote for you. Great.
And if your point is, oh, well, when a libertarian wins, it's going to be better. Well, you libertarians have already said the system's rigged. You know it is. We heard RFK. We've heard the libertarians. It is rigged.
Somebody asked me recently, like, why don't you like the Mises people? It's ideological, right? And I said, no, it's because every interaction with them is horrible and they've treated me terribly, and I just don't like them as people. Why would I want them to be in charge of anything, let alone have the power of government over me? Oh, well, but you're working against your interests. Yeah, but you're not nice people. You don't like me. You tell me I'm awful and terrible. Why would I vote for you? Why would I like you? And so it's self-inflicted. It's so much of the right now is self-inflicted and stupid and doesn't ring true to people. It's just that they don't want bigger government. They don't want unrealized capital gains taxes. They don't want 40% capital gains taxes. They don't want the economy to get worse because they fundamentally understand that raising those taxes makes the economy worse, whereas lowering those taxes led to the Trump boom. So it's if the right could be the type of people that you wanted to be around instead of like this weird weird is a great word to put it, but what's the term, transgressive, where it's I'm going to be the meanest to you possible to get kicks out of my group. It's just very childish.
When you have JD Vance up there calling a stepmom childless. This is not, it's one thing to find like a blue-haired TikToker that's going out of their mind. It's another thing to have the vice president up there on the stage and just be like, being a stepmom doesn't count as being a mom.
Right.
Like that is, and you just look at this mainstream swell within the Republican Party, making fun of Walz's mentally challenged child, lying about why he got his hand pulled because it was a teleprompter, and then covering their tracks when they get caught on this lie. Why do I want to be? I don't want to be with the liars. I don't want to be with the people that make fun of stepmoms and interracial marriages and mentally challenged people. Like, libertarians need to be the good guys. When you're talking about the Mises Caucus, this is so true. I agree with them on like every platform point. I agree with like the classical libertarian people on like none, but the classical libertarian people are nice and you're not. And ultimately I'd rather be surrounded by nice people than right people, because right people sell out their values if they have no character,
right?
And good people don't, right? And so the last thing I wanted to say is just be the people in the churches in Texas that got shut down. Because that shows that the reason libertarians can't be the solution is because it's against the law to be the solution. I get that. Go and do it anyway, right? At least show the effort. At least be the people that say, hey, I tried to be the solution. This is the show that you actually have the solution for America. Don't just talk about the welfare state, do something about it. Right. And then, yes, if the government shuts you down, as they will, then at least you can hold up and say, I love these people and I tried my best. Instead, what do you hear out of libertarians? Oh, these welfare whores, these people that they just grub onto the American taxpayer. They just want my money. Oh, mass deportations are the one thing I agree with, like the Republicans with. Like, you're out of your mind. You've become the bad guys. And this is my final point. Just be the good guys. Libertarians, be the good guys. Be the people. If everyone's best friend is a libertarian, liberty is going to sweep the country like that. Because even if they don't agree with you, they won't allow policies that illegalize you, right? They will fight for your inclusion on stages. Right now, people won't fight for our inclusions on stages because we're jerks. People don't feel bad for us. So yeah, it can be illegal and wrong and unconstitutional and whatever, but nobody cares. Nobody's going to care until you are a person worth standing up for and worth getting in trouble for.
Oh, dang, Cassandra, the court jester can't be king. Ooh.
That's trouble for me. But yeah, anyhow, thank you.
Rhinehold?
Thank you, everybody.
Similar thing, just the point when he makes at the beginning about the divisiveness and how that can't be how you do politics. It's exactly why I was calling out the Mises Caucus since 2017, because they started going after the power that they wanted to have by using divisive tactics to do so. And while that will gain you temporary, easier benefit to what you want, your power, because it will motivate people for a period of time. But after a while, it becomes exhausting. People don't want to continually be in that mode, and I think we're there now nationally. I mean, you see the results of what happened in the Libertarian Party from what they did. They created this divisive nature. They get into power, and there's nobody there left with them. They're wondering where everybody is. They can't get any donations. They can't run the organization. They can't support their candidates, the ones they even choose to support, right? All because they took that path to get there instead of trying to earn it by having your ideas be the ones that people agreed with and chose and moved forward with. So that's the thing is I really took out of the beginning of that speech was that he was really hitting on the same thing that Trump has been doing, where it's mostly a divisive nature type of populist movement that will eventually fizzle out because people will get tired of feeling like they're the victims all the time or feeling like the other person's the enemies. People don't want to be enemies with their neighbors. They really don't. They can get convinced to do it for a while, but after a while, it will fall apart. The Democrats have always kind of confused me a lot on the Libertarian side because they have a lot of identification of the problems that I see, but their solutions are all wrong, right? But that gives me hope. At least they see the problems, whereas a lot of people in the populist right that's going on now don't see the problems. They don't think they're problems. We're treating people who are trying to come into this country badly and making it hard for them to do so, trying to escape torture and rape and murder from their governments. So they don't want to come here and institute the same one. That would be silly, but that's what they're being told. And that's the fear they play. And that's how they get people to hate other people is by telling lies about them and making you fear them. Trump was saying, something today. I think it was Trump. It was an interview. But he's saying he's doing well with women because women want to be safe. And he's almost admitting that he's trying to scare white women with brown men that are going to come and get them.
Interesting.
Right? They're saying it out loud now and openly admitting it. So that's that divisive nature. They're going to get worse and worse as they start to lose the power. And you see that in the Mises Caucus too, as they started to have these problems and people started, abandoning ship, as it were, because they were tired of being associated with it. They got worse. They got more divisive, more angry. They start turning on each other because who else is there left to go be divisive with if everybody else is gone, right? So you see a lot of that happening. Factionalization is going to happen, and you're going to see that in the populist MAGA movement. Eventually over the next, especially if Trump doesn't win this year, I think that starts to fall apart and cave in on itself. And you're going to see a GOP, which if Trump hadn't won this year, I think you would have seen it sooner. But you'll see a GOP who is going to start reinventing himself a lot like what the Democrats are trying to do now. Right? You're going to see a more positive notion coming from them. They're going to try and take a higher road. Even though they've done all this horrible stuff, they're going to try to take that tack. And I think that's only good for everybody. If you have a Democrats who are trying to do better and you have the Republicans trying to do better, I think that's going to make the whole environment better politically. People will start
hopeful fool
being able to work together. I know. But I still say that divisiveness that and like I said, I can point to the Mises Caucus as a great example of what I was trying to say then. It can't last. People are human nature and human creatures can't just sustain that for long enough that you need it to be.
People like peace. They like homeostasis. Mm-hmm. All right. Thanks so much for joining us. Hey, if you got something out of this, please go support us over at Patreon. The link is in the show description. I'm doing a daily show. At least I'm just testing it out through the election. It's a lot of work this week, but a lot of fun. And so check out if you enjoyed this, got some insights, then please support us. It does take some time to put in the work to figure out what we want to say here. You got to input to output, right? So check that out. We'd appreciate your support. And thanks to Hodey and Rhinehold for being here. We appreciate you guys. And thank you, listener, for being here. We'll see you again next week.